Hello, and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for staying with us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Cerebral palsy, CP for short, is a group of disorders that affects movement, muscle tone, and balance. It occurs in early childhood, usually. According to the Centers for Disease Control, CP is the most common motor disability in children. It occurs in approximately 1.5 to more than 4 per 1,000 live births. Cerebral palsy has been found to be more common in boys than girls and more prevalent among black children than Caucasians. Our guest today is the CEO of Benola, a cerebral palsy initiative. He's retired Air Vice Marshal Femi Gbadebo. He's also the father of a 21-year-old living with cerebral palsy. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so since you have hands-on experience, tell us when did you discover your son had CP?
He was born on the 14th of June 1996, premature, and that led to him having difficulties with feeding, and consequently neck control. He was salivating, he had occasional seizures, but the impression we got from the doctors was that it was because of his being premature, and that within a little while he will get over it. And this little while dragged on for more than 6 months.
Well, really, by 6 months, any child who doesn't have neck control, you know, one would be suspecting that something is wrong.
We had never had the word CP. He wasn't our first child, he was actually down the line. But as a parent, you always like to think the best.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, in our climb here, once you have a child, you look for the visible fixtures. 5 fingers or 10 fingers, 10 toes.
I remember that. Your parents come counting them.
Beautiful. We've got a perfect child. And that's what most CP children look like. It is as they grow that you begin to see that they miss what medical people call milestones.
Milestones, yes.
And eventually, before he was a year old, we actually we had the opportunity to move to Lagos. And one thing led to another. Somebody directed us to a neurologist who now did the scans and the tests and just pronounced that word, cerebral palsy. It was a big shock. And he said something that was very, very vital. He said, it has no cure. Don't go running from pillar to post. You will just waste money and you'll waste time. Some people will lift your hopes. But, you know, that's what we did. We ran from pillar to post.
And you ended up in India. Why? Was it that nobody in Nigeria was giving you any hope about the situation?
India was actually about, let's say, 13 years down the line. What we did, because I was in the Air Force and the Air Force came to our assistance, we could have gone to London, but then there was the period when there was a bit of a problem between, you know, some Western governments and the Nigerian government, particularly with government officials. So we couldn't get a visa, but eventually we managed to get to Germany when he was about a year old, and the pronouncement was the same. There was no cure, he had CP. Now, the amount of damage that's been done to the child's brain, or to the extent of which the child is affected by CP, can only be known as the child grows older.
Okay.
When you begin to see more and more limitations being exhibited. And so we had to wait on for some time. By the time he was 8
So that they could actually determine what was affected?
To determine what other form of intervention can be introduced.
Okay.
The simple things is you do physio, maybe you try and get them some kind of occupational therapy and speech therapy and so on. But as they get older and stiffness comes in, then some of them would actually end up with locked knees or elbows, and you would need to do what's called tendon release.
Yes.
So that you know, there can be a little more
to free the limbs.
Those limbs. Sometimes you need to do some hip surgery to have them sit better and so on. And in my own son's case, by the time he was about 11, 12, we started to notice a very dangerous twisting of the spine, which is called scoliosis. Scoliosis would get your body twisted, but it's actually the spinal cord that is twisting and moving.
Okay.
And what it could do is it could actually collapse along. In his own case, you could see it. It's moving and shifting the body, but pressing towards the front.
The lungs.
And we really felt concerned that something was going to give. And that's when we realized that no one was really willing to do the surgery.
Okay, so what is the implication of that? Were they saying that you should just leave the child, no more intervention for him?
Well, you see, when you have a bad case of cerebral palsy, you'll have serious body contortions or disfigurement. But what what the doctors will tell you is that you don't need to do complex surgery if you're not going to get the result that you want. For instance, is the child going to be able to walk? If the child is not going to be able to walk, why are you spending so much money? Because it's actually, there's a lot of pain. The condition of that child does not put the child in pain. It may put the child in some difficulty. But when you begin to do complex surgery, you're putting the child through a lot of pain. And if you watch any of the health programs on TV, what you'll discover is that there's no one surgery that solves a problem.
Yes, they go through a series of surgeries.
Now exposes other complications, and you need to go for 3, 4, 5 other surgeries to hopefully get to... In fact, some surgeries will now demand a couple of other surgeries.